Hey everybody, in this wizard build video for the game of Frostgrave, I'll be creating a Necromancer designed to maximize the bonuses given for setting up their base in a crypt. Hey everybody, I'm Alan, with Bricks and Blocks Gaming, tabletop gaming with bricks and blocks and helping to build your gameplay foundation. In this video, I'll show you the Necromancer's spell list, discuss their main spells and strategies, discuss how their other spells fit into this, recommend some soldiers to hire for the wizard, and give my thoughts about using this build in a game. So let's get to the bricks and blocks of creating this Necromancer for Frostgrave. For their starting spells, from the primary school, I've selected Animate Skull, Bone Dart, and Raise Zombie. From the aligned schools, I've selected Brew Potion, Decay, and Leap. And from the neutral schools, I've selected Enchant Weapon and Write Scroll. For this Necromancer, I've decided to set them up in a crypt, which gives both the wizard and the apprentice a +2 bonus on all their attempts to cast Raise Zombie and Animate Skull. With the wizard and apprentice only needing to roll an 8 or a 10 respectively to raise a zombie, they should be able to start most games with one of these undead allies. And the main goal of this zombie should be to move toward the nearest treasure to pull it off the table without the warband losing one of their regular soldiers to do this. And in longer games, being able to easily raise a replacement can help add support in combat or serve as a rotting meat shield. And the +2 bonus given to Animate Skull, which usually has a casting number of just 8, makes it incredibly easy to cast. With a limited range of just 6 inches, these will serve mainly as another source of protection against oncoming threats, but since they're uncontrolled, the spellcasters will want to be sure to keep their distance from them. And since the skulls can be animated directly into combat, a useful strategy is if both wizard and apprentice are close to each other, is to have them each animate a skull into combat with the same figure, as it's been ruled that uncontrolled creatures gain support bonuses from other uncontrolled creatures. While those two spells are important for their overall strategy, the Necromancers shouldn't need to be constantly casting these spells during the battle. On the first turn, if they already have a zombie in play, both spellcasters should focus on casting Enchant Weapon on one of their soldiers. As a neutral spell, this spell casts on a 12 and serves just to power up a couple soldiers and give the wizard some experience points. It's not crucial to their strategy though, so unless the warband will be facing something immune to normal weapons, a failed roll doesn't need to be empowered. After the first turn, the spellcasters will mainly be casting Bone Dart or Leap. If there's any enemy figures within 12 inches, Bone Dart, with its low casting number of 10, will serve to both deal out damage and intimidate opposing figures to stay in cover. The +5 shooting attack isn't as strong as an elemental bolt and doesn't deal magic damage, but it's still quite effective, especially if used on a thug or a thief trying to escape with treasure. And if there aren't any enemies in range, using the aligned Leap spell with an adjusted casting number also of 10 will be used to move soldiers around. Since figures carrying treasure are only left 5 inches instead of the usual 10, using it to move figures into action is preferred to maximize the use of the spell. And since figures can't do any more actions in a turn after being leapt, using it on soldiers that have already activated with a spellcaster should be the priority. Their other in-game spell is the aligned Decay, which casts on a 14. This is there as a situational spell to be used maybe once or twice in a game. Since Animate Skull and Bone Dart have a limited range, Decay can work to destroy bows and crossbows carried by soldiers camping across the battlefield, and can be used to unarm melee fighters. However, keep in mind that treasure hunters, knights, and barbarians all carry backup daggers, so the loss of their main weapon won't leave them unarmed. The best close combat soldiers to target are Templars and infantrymen, as well as reducing their fight by 2 and the damage they cause by 2. The loss of their two-handed weapon means they'll lose their damage bonus from that as well, so -4 total damage from what they would normally do. And keep in mind you can't destroy magical weapons with this spell. Since there's only so many turns to cast spells, the Necromancers finish out their spell list with 2 out-of-game spells. Brew Potion is an aligned spell, casting on a 14. Honestly, I think this spell is a bit broken because potions of preservation can be brewed, then sold for a whopping 200 gold crowns each, but I'd encourage players to use this to create potions of healing, since Necromancers don't have access to the heal spell at the start of the game, or some other potion they plan to use on the battlefield, just for the sake of fun. And their final spell is Write Scroll, with a casting number of 16 since it's from a neutral school. If players use this to generate money, it only makes them 30 gold crowns, so it's not as big of a deal as it is with Brew Potion. But otherwise, they can make scrolls of Raise Zombie, so the warband will be assured of starting with one, or of Decay, since that's their highest casting in-game spell, and often won't need to be cast more than once or twice per battle anyway. As far as which soldiers to hire for this Necromancer's warband, they shouldn't need much range support because they should be spamming bone darts. So with the funds left over after hiring their apprentice, I'd recommend hiring 2 barbarians who will be the target of the enchant weapon spells and serve as the warband's main combat options, an infantryman to use up their final 50 gold crowns, then 2 thieves for treasure gathering, and 3 thugs to be warm bodies. As the campaign goes on, the soldiers should stay focused on combat, probably adding a Templar and a Knight to have some defensive options to go with the barbarians, and some combination of infantrymen and men-at-arms to fill your other positions. Taking an apothecary for 1 slot would also be a good idea to take advantage of how they use potions that can be made with Brew Potion, and just to aid with healing in the absence of healing spells. As the Necromancer gains levels, their main focus should be on decreasing the casting numbers for Bone Dart and Leap. Luckily, these spells, and really most of their spells, have low casting numbers to start. But after these spells are improved, probably lowering Brew Potion or some spell they might have learned from a grimoire would be the next choice. And for their stats, since the casting numbers are low, they shouldn't need a lot of extra health for empowering spells. And due to the fact that Bone Dart and Animate Skull both require the spellcasters to be close to the action, improving their fight stat, which helps them both fight in combat and dodge arrows, should be a priority. I think this is a solid Necromancer build. Bone Dart is a staple in most Necromancer's spell lists, and it and Leap are both great spells for any wizard. If there's a weak spot in this build, I think it's that the spellcasters will find themselves close to the action during most of the battle, which always gives the possibility for bad things to happen. Also, since the casting numbers of the main spells are relatively low, this would be a great build for a short campaign or one-off game. However, in the latter, you wouldn't get to enjoy the bonuses given from the Crypt, which is what this build is really based around. Let me know in the comments your thoughts about this Necromancer build, and whether you have ever made use of the Crypt Base to improve either Raise Zombie and or Animate Skull. I'm Alan with Bricks and Blocks Gaming. Thank you for watching, and play well.